evening. This is Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And we are here again to take on a new topic for the week. And I hope I say it correctly. Jeanne, correct me if I say it wrong. We're trading stress for joy. And I've been writing it the opposite way for everyone. So they're probably totally confused if they've been reading my saying on that. But that's the whole point. We want to trade stress for joy during this holiday season. We know that it's a crazy time for everyone, because people think, oh, I got to go out and buy the best gift for this person, or I need to get all my food together and I don't have any food to eat yet, or blah, blah, blah. Take a deep breath. It really isn't worth the stress and strain that's going on in the world. Now, today I have, of course, Jeanne. You know that she's going to be here. I have Leslie Baker here for her second, I think it's the second time you're here. Yeah. And a newbie, but people do know of her somewhat, Mae Jones from North Carolina, who tells me she's a mindfulness coach. And when I interviewed her, she definitely was in that line of being. Living.
That's right, being.
Not yet. I'm going to pass this over to Jeanne, and while I do what I need to do, and Jeanne, please take it over. Take it.
Thank you, Carla. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the season. It started a little earlier than what we're starting, but in my house, we had 7 children when I was growing up, and Christmas did not start until after December 4th. That's because my sister's birthday was on December 4th, so we were in birthday season. And then after December 4th, we're in the holiday season. We're in Christmas and Hanukkah, and there's so many different seasons right now, and it's all about rebirth and renewal. Yet we make it crazy. So I have some interesting quotes that I found that I wanted to kick off today's session. And one is an ancient Chinese proverb: tension is who you think you should be. Quotes that I found that I wanted to kick off today's session. And one is an ancient Chinese proverb: tension is who you think you should be. Quotes that I found that I wanted to kick off today's session. One is an ancient Chinese proverb: tension. Somebody's got it playing back. Somebody's Boss, are you playing back?
Hold on for a moment. Okay, I just fixed it.
So that's what going live is about. Things happen. And apparently we needed to hear this. So let me repeat it one more time. Tension is who we think we should be. Relaxation is who you are. And that goes to that whole idea that, and it's kind of a meme, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas that get us all tied up. So I liked that. That's why I wanted to share it. Followed by some insight from Paul Coelho, the novelist who brought us The Alchemist. It's the simple things in life that are the most extraordinary. Only wise men are able to understand them. So if we take a moment and think about that, only wise men understand the simple things in life. Oh my, that's something for us to work to. And then we have the great American philosopher and actress, Lily Tomlin. And for this season, I thought this would be great. For fast-acting relief, try slowing down. For fast-acting relief, try slowing down. No truer words. With that, let me kick it over to Leslie. Trading stress for joy, Leslie. How does this fit?
Well, from a therapist perspective, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. It's really important, I think Lily Tomlin says it best, right? Is trade stress if you want to help your stress, slow it down. And I think in a season, everybody actually does the opposite. They speed it up and cram more things into a shorter space of time. So slowing things down, for instance, earlier in our discussion, we talked about offline, we talked about saying no. How can, you get a lot of invitations, you get a lot of opportunities to connect with family and friends. How can you be polite and also say no? You don't have to give excuses. You don't have to do a lot of things, but what you can say is, I so appreciate your invitation, and I'm already have another engagement. I'd love to see you in the new year. I'm wondering if we could set something up then. So simple ways of setting your boundaries, simple ways of taking your calendar, and the most important thing is blocking some time off for you, taking some time for yourself to rejuvenate, do your mindfulness practice. And I'll turn that over to Laura because I know that's her expertise. But just in my mind, slow it down, say no when you can, and block off time for self-care. Laura?
Yes, I agree with everything you just said. And I always had a problem in the past with my own expectations of how I visioned it, how it should be. And I would make myself just so drained by the time Christmas got here or the holiday got here, I couldn't enjoy it fully. So like you said, I have learned to plan better, not overextend myself. And I love what you said about offering an alternative day or time to get together. I really like that. And making time for yourself is just so important, even if it's only 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon. It gives you a chance to stop, pause, and connect with yourself, your higher power. Take a breath, reevaluate. We can change our goals. If, things, we have to be flexible and accept the things we have no control over, like perhaps we're uncomfortable around certain relatives or people that are negative, and we're aware of that possibility. And the way I learned to deal with that is to accept it and know that this too shall pass. It will be a block of time. So there's no need to stress about it ahead of time when it's only a short amount of time out of your whole season. So I like to just try to pause if I get the chance and look through a child's eyes. I love to look at children and look at their wonder when they're looking at the Christmas ornaments on the tree and the lights or whatever's going on, a parade, or their joy with their relatives or other children. I really like to look for the silver linings if it's chaotic at the moment, because there's always silver linings in every situation. And let's see, saying no and protecting your boundaries is the most important thing. And it's very hard to say no because we do want to please and be there for everybody. But there's only so much of us, and we need to make sure we have enough in our own bucket so that we can give our best self to our family and loved ones and friends. So with that,
I agree with you, Laura. And one of the little pieces that I found is along the lines of, I think, part of the mindfulness. So I have my clients and my colleagues and friends check in with themselves before. So sometimes just don't commit in the moment. So give yourself some time, let me get back to you about that.
right, yes.
And I need to check my calendar. I need to check with my partner, whatever it is. And that will give you the think time or the ability. So sometimes when we react too quickly, it puts us in a pickle. Yeah. And so I like to give myself, that way I can be even more mindful about what I'm choosing and what I'm not. When I do it on the spot, or when I find even my colleagues or other people, I try not to put them on the spot either. So why don't you get back to me? Take some time and see if it fits into your schedule. So that we're both honoring and giving people grace.
Right. Very good. I love that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I just had a conversation with a friend this weekend, and she was all excited about this potential project somebody wants her to do. And she called me because we work on a volunteer project together, and she just wanted to let me know. And I said, "Can I ask you a question?" And she said, "Okay." And I reminded her, "What about this thing that we're planning to do in January?" And she went, "Oh, I totally forgot that." And in the conversation, without sitting down going, "I'm going to coach you," because that's not how I approach my friends, obviously. But I said, "So what is it that you need to be able to set this boundary?" And the reason I'm bringing it up is, if it were me in her shoes, I would never have thought about setting a boundary. It's not something that comes second nature to me. So me reminding her was just as important for me as it was for her. And at the end of the conversation, she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna tell her." She said, "You'll be proud of me." I said, "I need to think about this." I was like, "Yay, step one." And we talked about ways that she could, gently pull herself out without hurting another friendship, and that's kind of the pressure, some of the pressure we put on ourselves. Well, I can't make her mad by saying no. Well, the answer truly is yes, you can. And if she's mad, that's her issue. Correct. Because you have a boundary. And when it comes to all the things we put on ourselves for this season, nobody knows how overwhelmed you are unless it's just you, because we keep saying yes, yes. I want this to be perfect for our kids. I want my family to enjoy it. I need to get the right gifts. I will tell you something I learned back when my son was young, and that was not to get caught up in the marketing hype. So I let him know at Christmas time, periodically, I go, everybody's going crazy over this toy. If you really want it, we'll talk about it later, but mommy's not going to go and fight with people in a store. And so he knew early. I mean, he knew things like, I told him Pokemon cards were fun, but they were basically ink on paper, so they weren't worth, $10. Because he would say, "This card is $10, Mom. Can we buy it?" And I'd say, it actually cost him about $1 to make. And here's what you need to understand. So he collected, I think he had 200 cards, but we collected them in a more, what I would think was effective way. And I made the game for him, not about collecting these shiny cards and having the most, but about getting the group of cards in the packs and being lucky, to be able to play. Because we do get caught up in marketing hype. We do get caught up in everybody else's energy. And I know that there have been times where I can't afford the holidays the way everybody can. And that puts pressure on me on top of it, And then I have the memories of when I could afford it. And I remember buying him the PlayStation 2 and playing a game. He got the case, he got the paddle, he got a game, and then he got an empty box. And he was like, but, and inside the box, it said, "Follow the string." And he had to follow the string to 2 closets because I made it a big game. And, he leapt so high in the sky when he finally got it, that made it for years, So there are things we can do that cost no money, that make the presents even more meaningful. The presents, the gifts, the time, whatever it is. Sitting down with a friend and listening is much more meaningful than, go getting a bottle of wine. Okay, I like the wine, but it's not as important as the time with friends.
Correct. Yeah, I think you make some really good points, Jeannie and Jeanne. And I think that, the value, especially, I love the Pokemon story, because here's the thing, you can still get Pokemon cards, and it felt like a death, or, you either get me, they use it, or they'll never be available kind of thing. Well, the truth is you can still collect them today. And that's what marketing does, right? You can still get, I have some, if he's still collecting, let's talk. You know what I'm saying? So that I love that. And holidays back in the day for, when I used to work at clinics where we had, we used to set it up so people could come in and buy things. You know what I mean? It was a donation place, but assuming what somebody else needs or wants is an assumption on our part. And so I love that families who were in need, they came in and picked what they wanted. And so I love that, because and they loved it because it wasn't what I decided for them. So, no matter how small, no matter what it is, it could be the gesture of, like you said, a dinner with a friend, a time to talk, FaceTime, whatever it is that you have available to you. I love that. Connection is everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about the gift. It's connection. People, children, spending that eye time, I call it, where you're mirroring one another. It's so important. And kids love it too. Singing a clapping song,
Right.
any of those things where you're eye to eye and the children really feel seen and heard. They love that. And that is an important thing. Kids who play games, but do multiplayer games where they're connecting with friends, that's important too. And so if you want to get into your child's world, ask to play with them. Go on, play with them and see what's going on there. Those are just opportunities that sometimes holidays bring, that you have an opportunity to join in the fun.
That's so true. That's so true. My grandson loves patty cake. He can be in the middle of a temper tantrum, and I start just doing this, and I sing patty cake. He'll look at me, and he'll run over, because he wants to push my hands together. Because he's in charge.
How old is he? How old is he?
He's 2 now.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's great.
the first time he came to push my hands together, I was like, ooh, this guy's going to try to be the king of the world. Right?
So cute.
And actually, Jeanne, you bring up another point. I have 3 things that I talk about, no matter what your mental health is, but sleep, eating well, and moving. And so anytime you can incorporate those three things, sometimes during any season of celebration, we forget those things. So we may do well in eating, but we forget about, taking that walk after we do dinner or lunch or whatever it is we're doing. The shopping doesn't count so much if you're standing in line all the time, or if you're shopping online, right?
Is that why golfing doesn't count?
That's right, because you're really just standing there. No, I'm kidding. Some guys really walk it between, and so that works. But and women, so it depends on how you golf. But I think that if you can incorporate, get a good night's rest, get up, do some moving, and eat reasonably. Like, you can have a taste of everything, but just be mindful for your health. And those are ways that you can reduce stress. I have a lot of teens that decide that eating is not part of what they want to do, but we all know that has health risks and such. So, eat, sleep, and move. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what to eat. I'm not a dietitian. But if you want to check in with those people, which I advise, then you can figure out with the medications you take, or what's a good food plan for you, and what's a good exercise plan according to your doctors and physiologists and physical therapists, etc. But just do those things. Simple walking, if it's advised by your doctor, can really brighten your day. Getting out in nature Obviously not in a snowstorm, but, depending on where you are in the world, but, just even, just doing some of these from a chair.
Yeah.
Take it in, leave it out.
Yeah.
Just it feels good, and that can reduce stress. So if we trade stress for well-being, a little bit of movement can go a long way.
Kind of
That
makes
is
me
so
think about
true.
yoga.
Oh, yeah.
I keep saying I'm going to do yoga, but then I keep remembering the time when I went to a yoga class and I kind of fell over like the marshmallow man and giggled. So, I have to start again with the idea that it's okay to giggle, as Carla would say, giggle is good for the soul. But I kind of
It
upset a
is.
few people who were serious, but I just thought it was funny. I just felt like the marshmallow man falling over.
That'd be good though. I would like that. I'd like to just topple over. I think it'd be funny.
And I think it's so important. Laughter you bring up, Jeanne, is core to the being, right? And so that's why I love children, because they bring laughter to those celebrations, because they're just who they are, right? There's a commercial on television where I think they're showing some sort of sour cream or something, but there's little potatoes and the little boy just stabs the whole potato and puts it in his mouth. And I just we're not going to do that, right? We're going to eat little bites, but he's probably like 5 and he's so excited about the potato. So, I mean, think about ways that you can just be funny and just be funny I'm not saying play with your food necessarily. All the parents in the world are going to think I'm crazy, but
but I used to tell Chris, I wanted him to eat salad and he wouldn't touch it, but he loved ranch dressing, but I couldn't call it ranch dressing because that meant salad.
Right.
So I said, do you want salad with the white stuff? And he's 4 years old and he's eating it up like it's candy. My friend said, I said, does Justin want salad? And her son, and she goes, oh, he never eats salad. And I go, watch this. Justin, did you want some white stuff too? And he was eating salad. It was all about how you labeled it, chicken. Chris loved chicken, but he wouldn't try pork. So I called it the other chicken. Yeah. I love
the other white meat.
Well, that was the commercial. So for Chris, it was the other chicken is what he ended up saying. So that's what I called pork. And he loves pork. So it was getting myself out of the I'm in control. You have to do what I'm going to tell you to what works for you. And that's what I love about kids is they take all of that stuff that's expected, all of that you should have been out. They are so true to who they are in that moment that I love it when they start laughing, even if it's appropriate laughing, it's okay because that opens up to what's here, what's now. And that relieves a lot of stress. You can be right there, right now.
Laughter puts you in the moment.
Pardon?
Laughter puts you in the moment.
Yes, it does. And Carla, you're an expert on that with the Giggle Fest University, aren't you?
I was going to add that smile and your laughter are the most powerful antidepressants in the world. It's not important to take all these drugs that people take. Just learn to put your smile on. And there's a lot of research about smiling. The one point that I want to speak first about is when you smile, there are 2 glands right here. And when you smile, you activate those glands. And guess what happens?
You feel better.
Laura?
You feel better.
Not only that, but let me finish my point, and then you're more than welcome to speak. When you smile, you activate those glands, and those glands send a message to the brain for all those hormones, I call them happy hormones. They're endorphins and dopamine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Laura, please, just for a moment,
Oh,
And what happens is our bodies, every cell in our body gets that change in the blood chemistry within seconds. You know, when you're crying and someone comes over and says, put on your smile, and you're really, really like, leave me alone, let me cry. But the moment that we put our smile on, we're changing that blood chemistry. And by changing that blood chemistry, we begin to relax immediately. And I have a process called laughter meditation, and we do two processes. The first is the smile process because it relaxes you. Many people are afraid to laugh out loud because they've been told that laughter sounds weird, don't laugh. But when we let our laughter go and enjoy it and we relax, it changes our whole outlook in life. And think, when you are laughing, you can't think. So all of that negative thoughts that may be in your mind just disappear. And you become clearer and more able to think and get thoughts out into the world, the more positive thoughts. So it's really important for everyone to begin smiling and laughing more, especially during these holidays. That smile and laughter will bring that joy and change the stress into the joy. So having said that, who wants that?
Well, I would add one thing to that process, and that's taking a deep breath. Because when we start to get stressed, we automatically do breathing from the top of our chest, which is not very deep. And you're kind of kick in the fight or flight, which is in the amygdala part of the brain, that fight or flight stress response. And one person I know says fight, flight, or freeze, because sometimes it's like you're deer in the headlights. But when you take the deep breath and you go all the way down to the bottom of your diaphragm and you let it seep in, you take it in slowly and you hold it and then you let it out slowly, that automatically moves you out of fight and flight to more of a logical, relaxed state. So between the laughter and the deep breathing, you're going to be euphoric, actually, because it is important. But the other thing I wanted to add to that, Carla, is, there's an old adage, smile and your enemies wonder what you're up to, which I love, because no matter how upset or stressed you are, if you can smile, you're going to touch somebody and you're not even going to know it. You're walking through the mall and somebody's having a bad day. They've got 3 kids and one's crying and one's going, but mommy, I need to have it, I'm going to die. And the other one's going, I'm hungry. And she's just over the top. And you smile, or you say something like, looks like you got your hands full, with a smile, that alleviates her stress. And you're not even aware that you did it. You just gave her a moment of, oh, somebody sees me, but that can change how she reacts, because, we want to react in the moment to our kids, but sometimes we want to be seen as being able to handle our kids. I don't know about anybody else who had kids, but there's no such thing as handling the kids. I do recall making gestures in grocery stores when my son decided that he wanted to be heard through a temper tantrum. And I would just go, like, what are you going to do? The parents would give me the evil eye and I'd go, this is what he's doing, and I let him work it through. And then, he never did that in a grocery store again once I let him work it all the way through. So there are things that make us embarrassed. And yet, if I see a mother under that kind of duress, I want to reach out and go, I've been there. So she knows she's not alone. And that helps relieve her stress. So sometimes it's just the smile. That is such a powerful tool. And in this holiday, we should all be smiling at everybody, because we're coming out of 2 years of pandemonium. I'm not even going to use the pandemic word. it's been pandemonium because it's 2 years of guttural change. We had to change everything we did in life. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy not to have Christmas dinner with the whole family last year. It may not be easy this year because we still have issues, but we can always smile at each other. And we can always say, take a breath. This isn't going to kill us if we don't have dinner together. What's going to kill us is if we lose connection. And thank God for tools like Zoom. It's about time I do this for my family. We set up a Zoom call and we all get on it and have a glass of wine or a cup of tea or whatever your drink of choice is. My brothers, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, now all the grandkids, and get a chance to connect and just tell stories. Those are simple things we can do that take some of the stress off of us.
I love, Jeanne, that you talked about, parenting and how challenging it can be, especially in the holidays. And people are working, like you said, Laura, with the expectations, Laura Mae. And I think that's part of the recipe, but also, children are out of a schedule, right? Because they were in school, and especially during the pandemic, things were chaotic, but even now they're back in school. And so then all of a sudden we have holidays, right? And they're not in school. And so I love the piece about just, let's put our judgment on the shelf, and like the elf is on the shelf and whoever else is on the shelf, but let's try to be kind and really focus on kindness and smiling and support for other people, and for ourselves. I find if I can be kind to myself, I'm less unkind to others. It really starts with ourselves, and it really starts, as they say, charity starts at home, so does kindness. So when I'm less kind with myself, I have less tolerance for others. So I know that it sounds kind of kooky, but if you start with kindness here, forgive yourself of whatever things that you may have had a no good, very bad, and awful day. Be kind to yourself, and that will reflect out in your smile and reflect out in the way that you have more kindness to give. So if you're hard on yourself, then it's kind of like an infection. It gets on everybody. So start with you. Take that self-care. Take that breathing exercise. And I love a breathing exercise that Dr. Weil teaches. And he does 7, 8, 9. And it's 7. You pull in breath for 7. So you take in the 7. And you pull it all the way in, all the way down to your gut. That's count of 7. You hold for 8, and you breathe out for 9. And you really want to get it all out. So that's the 9. And you want to make noise.
Yeah, that's going to the very deepest part of your abdomen.
Exactly. And that's Dr. Weil. And he has videos and such, but it's really important. The other one I love is the 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. So you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and you hold for 4, and you start all over. So that's another one. And my kids like it because we breathe in for 4, we hold for 4, we breathe out for 4, and we hold for 4, and we start over. We breathe in for 4, we hold for 4, we breathe out for 4, and we exhale. We hold for 4. So you can use your fingers as a guide to help you get through the breathing of the 4s. So just
great.
find little tricks and tools that you can use.
That's great. Laura, what do you suggest?
Oh, you've suggested so many great tools this morning. I really love Carla's with the smile. It reminded me so much of a skill I learned in dialectical behavior therapy. They call it just the half smile. If you put on just a half smile, you feel better. And I use that on my grandson. He gets really upset. And I've learned if I get him, and we're virtual because he lives in another state and he's 5, but I'll have him raise his arms up to the sky and show me a half smile and stand when he does it. And he can't help but feel better. And he'll start laughing. And there is nothing better than a belly laugh from a child. It makes me get the giggles. And if I can get a belly laugh, I love that because, that makes the dopamine, the serotonin, and all that good stuff just bounce around in there. So I just think the most important, again, is to be mindful, be kind to yourself, absolutely, and do smile at other people. It helps them know there's still love in the world, there's compassion. We all love each other, and we're one big family globally. And I think it's so important to be kind to each other. I love to buy the person behind me McDonald's when I get my coffee once or twice a month. I love to do that. And it happens to me too. In fact, the one about a week ago, my husband and I went through, and they had 3 cars that had paid. And they said, did you want to continue with that? I said, absolutely. How much is it? I always ask how much, because one time I did it, there was one person in the car, but they must have bought for the office because it was $21. And that's a little out of my kindness budget. So always ask, but yes, it's little things like that. And there's a lot of people that are struggling with holidays. So always have compassion for those that are lonely or hurting or grieving. So be grateful in the moment, stay as present as you can, and be kind to yourself, and do take time for yourself so that you can be there in the moment and be the gift, be present to your loved one.
And we always forget to be kind to ourselves. We may say, oh, this person wasn't nice to us, and we get into that whole thing. I don't like what he said. I'm not good enough. I'm not blah, 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 blah. It's time for us to realize that we can only be ourselves, and that we are enough as ourselves. Right. And the moment that we begin to realize that we are all right as ourselves, then we can be kind to someone else. I find that there are times that I get annoyed. And I get annoyed because I see something in someone else that's in me also. And that's the only reason I see them and see it in someone else.
Yeah.
So instead of getting stuck in what we see that we don't like, begin to think about what we see that we like about ourselves. And there may be something about Jeanne that I really like. It's also within me. We are all so connected. And when we see what we like in another person, turn it around and look at yourself. Remember, when you're pointing your finger, there's one finger being pointed out, but there's 3 fingers being pointed in. And when we see that, and we see these 3 fingers, don't only look at what we don't like about ourselves, also look at what we like about ourselves. And it's just extremely important for everyone.
I think you bring up in that nice story that I hope Shabazz captures, you bring up 2 points that are worth highlighting. One is mirroring. We often see in other people what we don't want to see in ourselves, but on the other hand, Leslie mentioned mirroring children. So if somebody leans forward, you kind of lean forward. If somebody's smiling, you smile, because that makes the child or the person or the adult feel seen. So that kind of mirroring is positive. But the other mirroring that we see that we don't want to often recognize is an aspect of yourself that you're seeing in somebody else. And then we step to this thing called judgment. And there's one thing I've been working on all year. It's to try to curb my penchant to be judgmental. It's not my role to be judgmental. And that's what I remind myself. I look at folks around me and, I wouldn't wear that, sometimes comes in, and that's the societal programming. And then you look at what the person's wearing, you go, actually, that color looks great on them. And that switches your perspective. And that's the other thing that you brought up. So perspective, looking at how you see things. How do you see the holidays? Do you see them as being stressful, or do you see them as being a time when everybody comes together and is happy? We can change the filter in our glasses. I'm the only one wearing glasses today, so let me just use them as an example. I like to think of mine as having rose color because I want to see everything as positive. Doesn't always happen, but if you change, oh, Laura Mae, those are just spectacular. If you change it to be blue or green, you might have a different perspective. But I love the story of the rose-colored glasses, always, having that filter. Because if you take something like judgment out of your vocabulary and you start looking for people for who they are at this moment, at this time, it's easier to accept them. I so much want to have somebody in my life to be a fashion plate and everything that she wears looks great. Okay, that's actually what I want. And if I think about it, I have my own style. You can't really tell on Zoom. So all the viewers, they see different blouses and stuff, but you don't know if I'm wearing sweatpants and slippers. That's one of the beauties of Zoom. On the other hand, when I walk out the door, it used to be that I would never walk out the door without having full makeup, without being totally dressed. Because every time I walked out without makeup, somebody would say, "Are you tired?" And I got tired of being asked, "Are you tired?" But then I went through a phase where I was like, that's their choice. That's their perspective. And I went to work with no makeup, and, because I knew it was going to be a tough day. I needed to be head down to the grindstone. I had, it was like a 5,000 word project that needed to be finished. And I wasn't going to pay attention. I was going to eat at my desk and I was going to get that thing done, and I did. And I realized I didn't die. Sometimes I go out without my wig and people go, "What happened to your hair?" Well, that's really none of your business. It's more, I wear wigs and I like them. It's how we want to show up in the world and not let somebody else judge us. And so we have an inner village, and there is a voice in my inner village that repeats all those judgmental things. And those are the ones I don't feel bad going, "Okay, you can shut up now. You did your job. It's time to go." I hear you, and I'm not accepting it. And I'm changing the inner village by changing what I accept in those thoughts. And that's made me a much happier person, and I can handle, and I have to say, part of my job in my corporate life was managing crises, the communications for crises. And that can be just like, woo, everybody's upset and under a level of stress that nobody can manage. And my job was to stand quietly and go, "I'm here. I can take care of this. Let's see what's happening." Basically I was the mother to everybody. How moms take care of everything. So I go, "I got you. The reporters are calling. I've gotten us an hour. Let's work on this. It's all taken care of." And then I'd go home and go, "Blah," and break apart. We don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't need to listen to everybody else saying you should be breaking apart about this. You can be calm. You can reflect what other people are saying or doing, but you can also be kind to yourself and not let that inner village drive you nuts. So when there is a crisis, you let the person over here, the voice over here go, "You got this. You got this. This is logical. We can explain it. We can figure it out. We're going to take the next step." And that's kind of how I look at the holidays. I can go nuts, but I gave up a few things. I have some friends who wonder why I never send Christmas cards. Well, that kind of went over the top for me, and I gave up Christmas cards. Would I like to start again? Probably soon, but I have to collect the addresses because I don't have them all. But that's not for me to go nuts on, because I send out things by email. It's different. So I think we said, how do you politely say no at one point? And it's not only to other people, but to yourself. I mean, I grew up in a family that Christmas cards went out by December 3rd. You know, my mother had it done, even though none of us were talking until December 4th about Christmas. She just had a way, she'd stay up at night and she'd get everything ready so that on December 5th, she'd just go to the post office. You know, God love her. She was organized that way. I'm not. You know, I once sent my Christmas letter out at St. Patrick's Day. I changed it all around to be about, you know, the little green elves and stuff, but, you know, it was still a Christmas letter to me. You know, I don't judge myself on that because I wasn't going to let myself be overwhelmed. So that's how you politely say no to yourself. You say, no, that's going to overwhelm me. What else can we do instead?
You were talking about glasses, Jeanne, a while back, and
Yeah.
I pulled out my virtual glasses. And sometimes the reason that I did that was because I work with these and I do a lot with VR. One of the cool things that helps with my clients and helps is that a lot of my youth can choose who they want to be in virtual reality. So they can choose their avatar. And what's so fun for them is just like you were talking about when you wear your glasses or whatever outfits you wear, they actually get to try that on in virtual world. And so it's fun for them. You know, they like to be, they actually don't have to buy the clothes or try on different identities. They can do it for fun in VR. And as a therapist, I learn a lot of things about these wishes and hopes and things that they want to try on and maybe other people in the world have rejected or not accepted. And so I just wanted to put a little thing out there there are avenues for adults and youth in technology where they can play with different personalities and different things. And there's a lot of mindfulness and rest in virtual reality for people where they do mindful things and other things. So even though, you know, the audience may not be using that, it is a up and coming thing. And people are getting more experience with virtual reality and augmented reality. And I just wanted to highlight that. That's another way that people are choosing to, you know, mind rest and, you know, whether they're connecting with people in VR chat or just going into Google. There's a Google Maps. You can go and visit your childhood home. and it's great with the elderly where they get to visit places that they remember, even though they have Alzheimer's. We can take them to places where they can remember. So it's really an interesting avenue for stress reduction. And during the holidays, you know, I don't work for any of them, but there are more realistic financial avenues into these things. So I just wanted to give that as an example of other ways to reduce your stress and increase your joy during the holidays.
That's true. And you know, I actually got a chance to visit one of my childhood homes once. I'll tell you, two things hit me. One was, this is so small, but I remember it being so big, you know, and the other was, it wasn't in the best part of town.
Yeah.
And I thought it was.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up thinking this is the place. This is where you need to be, because that's the child's perspective.
Of course.
And we lose that as adults. We lose that level of innocence that allows us to be joyful wherever we're at. I mean, there's nothing like remembering, I think it was called skip bow. It's something you put on your heel and it was a string and a ball, and you kick your foot up and it goes around and you play skip.
Yep.
You know, I would go to my neighbor's house because she never had a car in her driveway and we did. So I would go to her driveway and play skip bow and then run home when it was time. You know, and those were the days when mom would say, go out and play until the street lights came on.
Yeah.
You know, And, but I remember looking at it as an adult going, holy crap, how did we fit 7 kids and 2 adults in this house? I mean, it was a 4-bedroom, but it was like 1,100 square feet. Wow. So it wasn't huge at all. None of the rooms were huge. So that put a perspective. You know, when you're a kid, you see the world in a very different way than when you're an adult. And when I was an adult, when I got to see it, I was living in a 2-bedroom duplex, and I was going, oh, woe is me. You know, I went through a really hard financial time and had to sell my house and relocate, and I'm in a duplex, and oh, you know, my son's not happy, and you know, the whole woe is me. And I looked at this house and I went, the first thing was, why did they paint it black? Because I remembered it being green. So the people who owned it painted it black and gray. And so, you know, first was judgment. I was very aware that that was judgment. Those are not my colors. But then the other was more awe that we lived in this house that was really not so big, you know, and it put in perspective. I went back to my little duplex and, you know, I was like, I have a yard. Yoo-hoo! My dog can go outside. Woohoo! You know, so I started appreciating things. So I think maybe what that brings up for me is learning to appreciate with the child's perspective. Great. That takes away a lot of that judgment that we have, that I think we get kind of socialized into, and acceptance that would help us go through life in the moment, in the now, a little better. To be mindful, as Laura Mae would say. To be there, to understand that when you peel the orange, it spits out little juice on your hands, and smell that juice. You know, to be really aware. You know, when you go to a tree, put your hand on the tree, feel the vibration. Things that, as Paul Coelho would say, only the wise men are able to understand, because we are wise, innately wise.
Yeah.
Carla, it looks like you're ready.
Well, that's the point. I think as children, we're not overthinking. But as adults, we get worried, oh, what is Jeanne going to think if I say this openly? Or is Laura Mae going to laugh at me? And it doesn't really matter. I watch the kids who come to the kids show. And they just blab, you know, they go on and they blab and shutting them up after they've learned how to say hello, and they realize they're not going to have their head popped off because they're talking. They just blab and blab and blab. And I'm like, when are they going to shut up? You know, because they're not going to. And then I look at the adults who come, please introduce yourself. Well, my name is Carla. Okay. Where do you live, Carla? Oh, I think I live in Silver Spring, or I live in the United. And I have to pull out simple things because they're so scared of being laughed at. I say to them, the mistakes you make are what allows you to grow. Come, make your mistakes. We don't care. In fact, we want you to make mistakes. You don't need to say that to a kid. A kid will dive in and do whatever he or she wants to do. And I think it's really important to realize that and to move forward knowing that to be a reality. Okay, we are coming to the end, so I'm going to ask everyone to come up with just maybe a few words to end the show with, what you took away or what you hope the audience has taken away. Laura, what do you say?
I am really thankful for the many suggestions that were offered here today, because I think with this stress, we do need our little to-do checklist to keep ourselves in balance. Balance is the most important, and it is so important to get our rest and, you know, get your sleep, Get your time for yourself and savor the nectar of every moment. That is all we have is now. What time is it? It's now. It's now again. That's what we have. We're not promised tomorrow. So savor the nectar of every moment. Be kind to each other, especially to ourselves. It took me so long, Carla, I'll be honest with you people. If I did not rewire my own mind by learning to not live in fear of judgment, I still would never be here. I would not have ever had the courage to face my fear and come on camera. I wouldn't have done it. So it took so much practice because that's culture. We're judgment is built in. It's cultural, it's generational. But with mindfulness coming so much into the forefront, it has literally set me free because I no longer fear that judgment. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. None of, people aren't going to like me, but I learned to love me. I loathed myself. I put such expectations on myself that it was terrible. I learned to love myself, which has made me be able to be so loving for the world around me and so grateful for everybody that crosses my path because I think there are no mistakes. And so I hope everyone has a wonderful season and just be grateful for everyone that crosses your path and be kind to each other. And thank you for all the reminders of all the little things we can do that don't take a lot of time.
Well, when we say loving yourself, that's a very important point. Many people are afraid, if I love myself, that's my ego talking. No.
That's fear of judgment. Don't worry about it.
No, it's not your ego talking. It's you accepting yourself.
Correct.
When you can accept yourself, then you can accept the people around you.
Right. Yeah, I thank you all for inviting me here today, and it was a pleasure to meet you, Laura Mae.
Thank you.
And
too.
I just concur with a lot of the things you said. I think in closing, small things often. So, just if the holidays are already the season for whatever religious practices or whatever you do, try some small things. One of the things I love is I either take lipstick or sticky notes and I put them on my mirror. And that way, if I'm brushing my teeth or doing whatever, they're coming into your mind. And that's just simple. Like, even if you're not reading them, your mirror is mirroring them to you. That's why I love the mirror. And so, I write things like, you rock, Leslie, you're a powerful woman. Whatever those things are that I need to hear that week. And that undoes that little negative voice in my head for me. And then I teach my clients to do that. So that little thing, if that's all you do, go you. Right? And all the other things we talked about today. So that's just another little tip. But if all you can do is say kindly, let me check my schedule. Let's see if maybe we could get together. If that's all you did this season to reduce your stress and find a little bit more joy, awesome. The Gottmans, I do a lot of couples therapy in Gottman related world. They're researchers on couples. They talk about small things often. If that's our goal, let's do that. Just try a small thing and do it often. And that will reduce your stress as well. Thank you all. Be kind to yourself. Been my privilege.
Jeanne?
Reflecting on what both Laura and Leslie said, I like the idea of small things. And Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the single step. And so if you have to repeat that step several times, that's fine. what I heard today a lot is a simple small step we can all take. And using the mirror as an idea, as an example, changing your perspective so you look for the joy can be the one change that we can make. So if your mirror is like this and you change the perspectives just a little, so it's looking a little bit more sideways, you'll see something completely different.
Mhm.
And that's just a small step. So instead of looking for what someone's doing wrong, look for what they're doing right. Instead of looking for, so much that you have on your calendar, look for the things that you want to make a star out of. Look at what your priority is and get that done. And then tell yourself, yes, I did something today. It's as simple as it needs to be. And that will relieve a whole heap of stress that we kind of picture on ourselves. So it also brings up one last little small step, and that's to change the picture in your mind.
Yeah.
Instead of having bricks up on your shoulder of all the things you have to do, put those bricks on a table. It was built to hold them.
Mhm.
We were built to go pick one up and do it, not to hold all the bricks.
Yeah. You don't have to be Atlas here. So ask for help and pick one brick at a time, baby.
Exactly. And Carla, what would you like to say at the end?
And baby steps. We all think, oh, I need to take these large steps. There's a picture that I shared on Facebook, and it was of two men, 10, I think it was men or women, it doesn't matter. But they were negotiating a ladder. And on the left was a ladder that had really big steps. You need to take these large steps for success. And the ladder next to it was someone with really small steps. And if we remember to take baby steps, even remembering to be kind to ourselves, that may be the biggest step that you take. But if you keep reminding yourself that every day over and over again, you will begin taking those steps and going forward. And I think that's the important thing. And remember to breathe. When you get very uptight and nervous and thinking I can't do anything, take a deep breath. And take several. Allow your mind to relax into that silence that we all have within. And when we go to that silence, all that negativity begins to be thrown away, and we can move forward. Having said that, guess what? We are over an hour. And I am thrilled of how this conversation went. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Leslie. And thank you, Laura Mae, for joining me today. We had the Girls Power today, and we will have Mixed Power on Thursday. I know we have Neville Gaunt, but I'm not sure about the other two panelists or one panelist. Yeah, one. And we're going to have fun talking about how to trade our stress into the joy that belongs to us. It's already there in our hearts. We just need to recognize it. And we do it one baby step at a time. Can we wave goodbye, everyone?
Bye.
Back on Thursday. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.